All right, here we are. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the All Portable Discussion Zone. It's a bi-weekly live stream all about amateur radio portable ops, and my name is Charlie. Call sign is November Juliet 7 Victor. And with me this morning are the show's two co-hosts, Dan, KC7MSU,
Morning.
and Brian, W7JET.
Morning, fellas.
And I'm also pleased to introduce to you today's guest, Chris, ZL4RA.
Kia ora. Hey guys, what's up?
And of course, we also have the regulars in the chat room. So you guys go ahead and join in. And if you have questions or comments, go ahead and post them up and we'll respond to them. If you don't forget that this is a show that's converted to a podcast about 24 hours after the show airs. So go ahead and check that out as well if you like the audio format better. And so let's go ahead and go around. So Chris, what we do is we just kind of go around the horn and tell everybody kind of what we've been up to since we last met. So you can just kind of, anything radio related or whatever. But we'll start with Dan first and see what he's been up to, and we'll end with you, Chris. So go ahead, Dan.
All right. Let's see. Haven't been doing a lot radio-wise. I was planning on hitting a summit this morning, but then I remembered we got a show to do, so that didn't work out real well. So I'm hoping to get one in here at some point this weekend. But did get to do a little bit of chasing today, and that was pretty fun. So that's my radio week.
Okay, cool. All right, Brian, bring us up to speed on what you've been doing.
All right, so W7JET here. Not very radio active. Been more death by PowerPoint and online test and learn how to use this iPad, and this is the app for this, and this is the app for that, and this is how you do this with that, but don't do it this way, do it that way. I know that that's what the book says, but that's totally wrong. And all the fun things that come with a new job. So yes, I have begun my my journey into the new place that I have started at, which I will probably reveal where that is later on. But it's with a major airline here in the United States, and it's going well. I finished up my week yesterday and flew home at the end of the day. I've got today and tomorrow home. I got to go back up to where I'm training at on Monday for something quick, and then I'm off for a couple of days after that. And then we get into the meat of it. Then I get to learn all about the airplane and the systems and all that stuff, and work my way through the simulator and making that journey over the next few months. So only ham radio stuff I did this week was my two CW ops classes in the evenings, and managing to do that with the Morserino and the touch paddles, because I had to sacrifice bringing an actual key with me, which has been interesting. I don't know if anybody's really messed with those touch paddles very much on the Morserino, but when you start getting up above 24, 25 words a minute, they become a little hard to do stuff with. You throw an extra dit in there every now and then. Anyway, over to you, Charlie.
Okay, good. Sounds good. All right. Well, for me, I have been just trying to kind of figure out a tuner and an antenna. I built one of Adam K6RK's antennas. He actually already did the toroid windings for me, so it was just a matter of adding some wire for a random wire. Yeah, it's one I'd had in my drawer for a while, so I got that all built. Nice. Yeah, it was really nice. I got that built and then took it in the backyard and tuned it up with the new tuner that somebody lent me. It looked and it worked pretty good. So then I went out in the field yesterday and did some SOTA with it, and I loved it. It was great. So that was fun. Other than that, I haven't really been doing a whole lot, chasing a little bit here from home, but a lot of work right now. So that's kind of pretty much what I've been up to. So all right, Chris, let us hear what you've been up to.
Did he wind you a 9-to-1 or a 49? Did you go in feed or a random
9-to-1? 9-to-1. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, cool, man. I've been playing with one of these ATU 100s, the sort of the cheap Chinese, probably stolen design tuners.
Oh.
It doesn't run QRP, but it runs. I think it's a QRO tuner. Playing with that, playing with a doublet at home. It's been kind of interesting. I think Ham Radio Dude did a video on his tuner, opened it up, and it looked like it had been assembled by like a zebra. And he had some issues with that.
With the hoofs?
Surprisingly. Yeah, oh dude, like just not even not a good zebra, like a drunk dude. Anyway, but I opened mine after seeing that video because I was thinking, oh, this is going to burn my house down. But mine was fantastic. It was mint inside, and that's been quite interesting. And just playing with noise at home, because I normally am able to get out every week, or maybe at least a half day every week. to go for like a long run or some baby mountaineering or do some SOTA, but I haven't been able to do that for a few months. So I've been working on home noise and just trying to mitigate like baby monitor noise,
Yep.
LED noise, all that kind of stuff. So it's going pretty well. I'm down to, I mean, I'm using CW obviously, so I get to cheat with filters that are, like this skinny, really, really narrow filtering, but I'm down to S1, S0 on most bands in CW, which is awesome. So yeah, hopefully I'm going to be able to do some SOTA chasing, and I don't know, maybe chase. I could be a weirdo and like run QRP from home and try and DXCC on
That's kind of
CW,
weird.
running 5 watts, something like that. I know it seems kind of pointless, but I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Okay, cool. Well, so again, Chris, welcome to the show. Thank you for sharing that with us. And so, of course, I know you kind of. I don't know that I can't. I guess I can't say I really know you personally really well, but you're a part of the same group, the YouTubers group. I guess we call ourselves loosely. So a lot of the same guys we know. Steve and Jason, and the whole group. So that's kind of where I know you from. But of course, I also know you from your videos, which you have a really cool YouTube channel out there, and so maybe we'll hear a little bit about that later on. But we just wanted to get you on because we hadn't had a guest on for a while that did summits on the air, and I know you're busy, and we all are. So summits on just doesn't matter that you may not have done anything relatively recently. You've done enough. I know you've activated quite a bit, and so. Yeah, I would say you're an expert at summits on the air. So we wanted to get you on and kind of know a little bit more about you. So go ahead and maybe introduce yourself, and then just kind of tell us a little bit about maybe your family, because I know you have some kids, and I don't know how old they are, and then maybe just kind of take it from there. So go ahead.
Yeah, right on. I'm a reasonably. Every time I say this, I have to count the years because it turns out time marches on. So I keep telling people I'm a really new operator, like I'm a brand new ham radio operator. And then I count back, and I think it's been 4 years now. So I don't know where the cutoff is, at which point you can say that you're no longer like a Daisy Fresh. I mean, I have the operating habits of a Daisy Fresh operator. That's probably ever going to go away. But yeah, so relatively new operator. A lot of people in my family were hams, both my parents were. And yeah, I got my ticket just for fun, really. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I didn't know if I was going to do anything with it. I mean, I think I saw Adam's, I saw Adam's videos, K6ARK. I saw his stuff, and I thought, wow, that's amazing. Let's go do that, which is summits on the air, basically. And it didn't have to be that. It was just the idea of being outside, being in nature, hiking, running, mountaineering, just having fun, and being able to tie something that's cerebral to something that's physical is really attractive. I've done a lot of cerebral things, and I've done a lot of physical things, but it's very few things that I've done are a nice mix of that. And radio kind of does that, right? You can be really technical, and you can use your your nerdy radio skills, but you can also get fit and get strong. So that was it. I did heaps of summits on the air. I've subsequently done some POTA stuff and some lake activation stuff, and just general outside activation. Yeah, I've got 2 little kids, 2 little girls. One is in school, one isn't far from being in school. They're little people. They've got little personalities. They like to wrestle and destroy things. Yeah, so that's cool, but they're too slow. They're slow, and I can't carry much weight, so they're not much use to me.
Yeah.
In the great outdoors.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is they're a little young yet, but most dads really want to, if they have a love for the outdoors, they want to find a way to share that with their kids. And so I was going to ask about that.
It's really killing me. Yeah, it's kind of weird because you think, all right, cool. What is the smallest hike? Yeah, it's quite selfish. You're thinking to yourself, what's the smallest hike we can do that will make me happy, that I'll enjoy, that they can do,
Yeah.
And so you're thinking, what is that? Like, was that 5 miles? Like a 3-year-old's not going to be too keen on 5 miles, in the wilderness. And so my wife was like, you're a total knob. What are you doing? Like, we just need to take them on small walks, and like very sensibly don't take them for 5 miles, you idiot. Like, let's do half a mile, and we'll bribe them with candy, and then we'll go a little bit further, and we'll bribe them with a little more candy, and before you know it, we'll be sweet, right? I haven't had the patience for that thus far. I think it's going to be this year, this autumn's job when it cools down a little bit more is to, yeah, man, just what is it, with a carrot in front of the nose of the donkey and take them along.
But
oh man, I'm really looking forward to just. I don't even care if like it's not even. It doesn't have to be mountain stuff. I just really like. But camping would be awesome.
Yep.
But I'm not so much into the camping where like you pack the wagon up and you go to a campsite and you camp. I'd much rather be somewhere where there's just no one there, and it's more of I don't know. I find that again, it's all about me. I find that a more visceral experience. You know, I enjoy that a lot more.
For sure. Yep.
But yeah, radio's just been one of many hobbies, man. I've got a lot of hobbies. And yeah, it's one that it's a funny one because I got it because my parents are hams and I thought I'll make them happy. I'll get this thing. But yeah, the more I do it, the more doors open, the more multifaceted you realize the hobby is. And yeah, it's just a huge amount of fun. You can tailor it to whatever you want to do, whatever you're into. It sort of bends and morphs and just fits the operator. It's really cool.
Yeah. So I was looking at where you live. I wasn't stalking you.
You wouldn't be the first one, Charlie. It's fine, brother. Whatever you need to do.
Yeah, I'm a fanboy. No, so right where you live, I don't know exactly where you live, but I guess the town you live in or whatever, there's a lake that runs along, and like all the summits pretty much around there you've done. But is that, I mean, you said something about activating on lakes. Is that where you were activating? Is on that lake there?
No. So we just because I can't stop doing things. It was basically was a little initiative from a couple of guys, 03GA, 03AB, and me. There was already an award. It's basically a New Zealand award system for activating lakes. So we're thinking, hey, SOTA is really cool, but I know people that just don't have the mobility, or they don't really have the time or the drive, or they're not super into QRP or carrying light gear. So we were just because we don't have a really strong POTA crew in New Zealand,
right?
Like you do in the US. It's amazing in the States, but it's just not super popular. And they're out there for the longest time. There weren't that many parks. There are a bunch more parks now. So if you're into POTA NZ, you should totally check out the new park list. But yeah, we were like, well, we've got heaps of lakes. New Zealand's covered in lakes. So there was an award existing, and we just rehashed an award, made it better, made it clearer, adjusted the rules. So it's the same thing. You go and activate lakes.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. Fun. All right, Brian and Dan.
Well, I find New Zealand very fascinating. It's on my hit list for a couple of reasons. Number one, my grandfather, he served in that area, so he flew everywhere from New Zealand to Tasmania up to New Guinea and everywhere in between during his days. So I would like to kind of spend some time there and step where he perhaps stepped at one point. But then again, you look at New Zealand, and man, it is just a target-rich environment for SOTA. And I don't know that much about the terrain, but it looks fairly mountainous. Is that true, or is there a lot of variety?
Well, I live on a spine of mountains called where I live, there's no variety. It's just rugged and rough, and you walk from the bottom of the hill every time. Basically, I think there's 3, possibly 4 summits for like hundreds of 100 miles of where you can drive some of the way up the summit, but most of the time you're at the bottom and have fun, and there might be a trail if you're lucky. So it's just a lot of there's tons, as you say, there's tons. The issue is getting access because it's all super, super remote. But there isn't a whole lot of bush bashing, which is awesome, massive plus. And because it is just mountains everywhere, there are mountains everywhere. It's not like you've got like one big volcanic cone and then the next mountain's 100 miles away, which is the situation that a lot of people face.
So for access, though, your access is a different challenge than like property ownership. It's like the mountains are there and you have access to them. It's just that they're so remote, and that's the problem.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's exactly right. There are some the mountains that are close to roads are owned. They're quite often they're owned by private. They're owned by their stations. So basically farms, right? Like high country farms. But yeah, you're exactly right, Charlie. It's not so much that like physically, getting your ticket or getting permission or whatever, or paying your fee. It's like, there's the mountain, it's over there, but it's 40 miles that way. That's the easy, like like it's just, you're doing massive distances to get in there. The best way to do it is to camp. Like if you can alpine camp, obviously it takes a huge amount more time, but you really want to get in there, do your day of travel to get in there, and then get up to altitude, and then work from there. Because especially if you're doing day trips, it can just be really hard to, like, unless you're just busting it. It's just a lot of effort to get in and get physical access, because there's very few roads.
Right. So if you say this mountain right here, you've got no way to get in, even to get to the base. A lot of times you got to haul in.
Yeah, exactly.
And then that might even be a day just to get close, and then sometimes it's 2, 3, 4 meters of elevation gain, and all that. I've seen some. It can be pretty hairy, can't it?
Yeah, a lot of the trips are obviously, it's not the same everywhere. That's just where I am. But a lot of the trips that I'll do will be they're kicking around marathon distance. So a lot of them are in the 30 or 40 kilometer distance range, and you're probably doing. This is. I'm really sorry, guys. I'm not an imperial man, but and you're looking at, I don't know, maybe 2,000, 2,500 vertical meters, which is some number of vertical feet. Charlie, what is that?
I don't know, 3 or 4,000.
6 feet. I think it's 6 vertical feet. I think is the official calculation there. Yeah. I don't know what's 250 meters in feet. It is. It's 8,000 feet. 8,500 feet.
So to get to a lot of these and to accomplish getting to the top of them, more advanced skills are probably required there in New Zealand, it sounds like.
Yeah, like anything, I guess, on a good day, you just need to be able to do the distance. Like on a good day, it's like you just doing the distance, you got to do the vert, and you got to get home. But yeah, I guess the challenge there is that obviously not all days are good, and some days start good and get really bad, and some days start bad and get really good. And because we're basically, I can almost touch Antarctica, we're so far south, and New Zealand is just, the South Island of New Zealand is just a jutting spine. It's a mountain range that pokes out at the South Pacific Ocean, and there's nothing anywhere. So we just get blasted. We've got no landmass insulation. Whatever the planet decides to throw at the South Pacific, we just eat it. We get no warning. So the weather changes on a dime. So it can go from beautiful to just really bad, really fast. And so you can imagine, if you're 6 or 7 hours from your vehicle, and you're halfway through your trip or whatever, there's just a lot of responsibility, involved in sort of keeping yourself safe and all that kind of stuff. But having said that, that's just what I do. There are lots of operators, not where I am, but also in ZL, that have a different experience. So it's not all like crazy ridiculousness. You can still be in ZL and have fun times and take sandwiches,
Like up north, right? The Northern Island.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And just have sandwiches and play a game of chess and ring your mum, like a nice, casual, happy, not like what a normal person would do. You can still do that.
Yeah. Brian, do you have anything at this point?
Well, I was going to ask, so what are some of the, we'll say, non-weather hazards that you have to deal with, like wildlife or related to the population, or things when you're going out to these summits? What are some of the considerations you have other than the ones we already covered?
Well, we're really lucky in some regards. We're not Australia, so we don't have any Death Viper 9000s that'll kill you just by looking at you. There's basically nothing dangerous wildlife wise. The only danger in terms of plants is there are things that we call them Spaniards. They're called speargrass, and they're just pokey little buggers. They're not.
Did you say speargrass?
Yeah, speargrass. Yeah, I called it. Yeah, exactly. In New Zealand we call them Spaniards, and then someone told me I should probably stop calling them Spaniards because I had a YouTube channel, and people might get offended. So no offense intended. That's just what we call them. I don't know why we call them that, but they're really thick little flax plants that'll puncture car tires. So they're really good in the shins. But honestly, so you basically, it's all really exposed and barren, so trees don't grow. So there's very little bush bashing, so that's great. There's very little problem in terms of animals. You just see heaps of mountain goats, heaps of deer, and heaps of like native New Zealand birds, like alpine birds. Weather's the big one, isolation's the big one, and it's just going to be exposure really that gets you. So it's going to be super, 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 super cold, and you're going to be unprepared, or you're going to get wet and it's going to be super cold and you're going to freeze. Or yeah, some people, the heat's another issue, but it's not such a big one. People get heat stroke all the time, but for me, it's not such a big deal because I'm at elevation, so I've always got breeze, and I'm always really high, so it's colder anyway. Even if it's smoking hot. If you're running, like you have heat issues, but it's just the isolation, and it's hard to get evacuated. It's hard to be rescued when there's nobody anywhere because you're in a village in the mountains. But B, if the weather's bad, then helicopters. It's really hard to get a helicopter in when it's blowing. And there's no viz. So you're like, oh no, all right, rescue team Charlie, come get me, Charlie. You and your team of 3 SAR guys. Oh, by the way, you've got to come in 20 kilometers up a valley through a river system, and then you got to climb it's just dumb. It's just really bad. It's not a place you want to be. But like as I said, that's just what I do. It doesn't mean that everyone does that. There are far more challenges you can do with your time.
Well, we're interested in you and what you're doing, so that's cool. Go ahead, Brian.
What's the? Is there any FM repeater coverage? Do you have at least that once you get up in elevation, or is that down on the South Island? There's not much of that going on. That's
some fancy man stuff there, Brian. What are you talking about? Like, you really have electricity. What? No. We do have one repeater, which is organized by a super lovely guy that donates a heap of his time. Very, very good at what he does. But I generally just don't take an HT because the only people I'm going to get Simplex are him and his lovely wife, both of them, both their hams, and I can probably get them from about eight peaks if they're around. We do have a repeater, but getting in is, even if you could get in, which which you can't often because it's just a blanket of mountains. You can see it from one, but if you're one mountain back, there are just other mountains in the way. There's just always stuff in the way. But even if you could get in, like they're not going to help me. There's no, they're not going to chase me. They might not. The repeaters, like I think is true in most of the world, are really quiet. So there's not a whole lot of repeater activity anyway. My whole life is on HF.
Yeah.
It would be nice though, wouldn't it?
So it's
I'm sure I could be all running around like this, having a great time. Like not having to set up antennas, just like hell, like it looks like magic to me.
So it's basically for if you need to call for help, it's if the cell phone doesn't work and you got a sat phone, it's a sat phone or a spot, or you're just you're waiting until somebody knows you're missing.
Yeah, it's just good basics. Have a little trip report, tell your wife where you're going, have return times, that kind of jazz. Cell phone is useful sometimes. It's completely unreliable, but sometimes it's. You've ever been up a mountain and you look at your phone thinking there's no way, and you've got full 4G reception. It's like that, It's like a you're just rolling the dice. Sometimes you've got reception. A lot of time it depends where you are. If you're really remote, there's no chance of cell phone. But my biggest tool is just those InReach minis, those Garmin's. So good, man.
Yeah,
so good.
Oh yeah, I have the full one. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if your plan for like being rescued is deploying your dipole and jumping on there and throwing out some diddy da-das on HF, like save me, I don't think that's a good plan.
No.
You're gonna be there for a while.
All right. Well,
that's what I was getting at. Go ahead, Charlie. I was just saying that's what I was getting at is what's the absolute I'm in deep doo doo and I've got to do something about it. I figured it was going to be down to the InReach, but I was just curious to see what you guys did because we all kind of have the same philosophy here. Charlie, Dan, and I both have the 3 options, and the last one being the fire alarm, as I call it, which is pushing the buttons on the InReach, just wait for someone to come.
Yeah, it's find a rock, baby, find some natural shelter. Jump into your emergency blanket, put all your clothes on, and start praying and push the buttons. Push as many buttons as you can find.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to digress a little bit, Chris, from ham radio just for a minute, because I know that you have a lot of other interests. I mean, you have a bunch of different hobbies, and one of them that I know you have or had is bushcraft. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do there?
I live in the mountains again, so there aren't that many trees. It's just really exposed, and the tree like the we have bushes. We don't really have trees. If I went further to the coast, there'd be trees. So yeah, the bush. I don't do a whole lot of it just because I don't have access to that kind of terrain. I've got really good access to alpine terrain, but not like lowland access is pretty poor. So the stuff that so naturally I'm interested in the stuff that I can't do or can't do a
Right.
lot of.
Well, tell us what you can't do
I
that
spend
you
a
want to
lot
do.
of time. I spend a lot of time doing. I find something. I find putting tarps up really interesting. The variety in what you can do with like a 3 meter by 3 meter tarp, pitching stuff. The permutations that can take, the different shapes. I spend heaps of time putting tarps up with the kids and sitting just in the backyard, playing around with different shapes and teaching the kids how to tie different knots and how to tighten things off. And just I find and fire starting is another one, like starting fires with bow drills and ferro rods and the different ways you can start fire and prepare your tinder and that kind of stuff. I find that really, really interesting because I have this fear of raising children that are just like all they know how to do is turn on the TikToks. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like they're really good on their phone and all their social interactions through their phone, and they have no physical practical skills. I hate that.
Yeah.
That
Now
makes
that's
me.
exactly who you are, right? You,
I
Chris,
don't
you're
like
like
it.
that's who you
Well,
are. You
I'm a software engineer. Like it's a weird. It's this weird dichotomy whereby my day job is I'm an engineer, and all I do is work on the computer. But in my off time, I try to be the opposite of that. But yeah, I just really like the idea of having little kids running around in 2022 that actually have some physical, practical skills that aren't just like, I ran out of phone. What do I do? Or I've got no reception. How do I? You know what I mean? I hate that like floundering, sort of just. I just don't like it. So I want to upskill these kids and give them some practical skills and get them outside and like have them like give them a knife and teach them how to whittle stuff or make a fire. And if they cut themselves, like that sucks, man. But that's part of life, and you're gonna learn and just be like a tough little kid.
Yeah, so some important skills, right? I mean, for everybody, really. But it's nice that you're thinking about your kids and wanting to bring them up and kind of show them some of that. My grandfather, who raised me, taught me all kinds of stuff like that. And as I was, growing up and stuff like that. And I look back now, and even if they don't really have at the moment, a true life application for some of the stuff, the principles that it teaches about self-reliance and being motivated and learning things yourself, all that's really important. So it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
those
think
in-person social skills are what's missing. Is like what you were talking about as far as you know you want them to enjoy being there in person instead of enjoying necessarily where someone else has been through a media channel or through their phone. Experience life for yourself.
yeah, totally. I think, like you said, Charlie, I don't even like. You can't force people to like stuff, right? So despite the fact that I really like CW, some people are just not going to like it, and that's totally cool. People like different things, but exposure is really important, right? So
Yeah.
it's hard to know if you don't like something unless you've done it. So I think exposing people to lots of different things, is really important. And to your point about being taught skills from your grandparents, it's not, and you're trying to find like maybe you feel a little bit bad because you've got these things and you feel like you can't really utilize them. But I think it's it's almost a self-confidence thing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I
for
really
sure.
like deep down in me, I really like the knowing that if something bad was to happen, I'm probably one of the most useful people in the room.
Right.
Or if something bad happens, you feel like you've got like this backstop inside of you because you have some practical skills. There are things you can do. You can build things with your hand. You're practical outside. You can think in useful linear ways to solve problems. So it's not You know what I mean? Like, it's not so much that I don't think it's really that important that, hey, hey, we're not whittling right now, or hey, we're not striking a Furo rod right now. But it's like you kind of build that internal system of self-resilience and self-reliance that just gives you a little bit of confidence in everything that you do.
Exactly, and that carries over into radio as well. When you, especially summits on the air, there are occasions where you have to be flexible and you have to be creative. I mean, every time you go on a summit, you don't know what you're going to face unless you've been there before, as far as how you're going to set up your antenna and all that, and how the reception is going to be. So it's all it's all trial and error, and you have to be flexible and kind of know what you're doing.
No, it could be even if you've been there 100 times, you don't know what the propagation is going to be like. It could be like a coronal mass ejection and the bands are trash and you're thinking, cool, all right, everything from 40 up or 40 down is wrecked. What am I going to do? How am I going to play the game? Who can I get?
Especially if you're taking 3 days to get to the summit.
Right.
You got to make it worth it.
Got to think outside the box.
Yeah.
All right. So I wanted to, you mentioned it just a minute ago that you're a software engineer. So before time gets away from us too much, I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about something you came up with, if you want to. And so I thought it was pretty cool when you introduced it. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about it and where you're at with it.
The SOTA stars thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I built this ages ago. I built this little tool. And I didn't know what to call it, so I called it the dumbest thing I could possibly think of. So I called it SOTA stars.
You going to share your screen, or do you want me to share it?
Oh no, you can share, brother. It's all good.
Okay.
Yeah, I built a tool that goes away and it steals. I asked permission, so don't worry. It steals all the data from SOTA data, and it lets you. It's basically like it turns summits on the air kind of into the Boy Scouts, whereby you remember getting those badges. I love those badges. And it's basically it's a tiny little award system, but it's not focused on your points. Like your raw points. They're like your mountain goat points.
Right.
So there's plenty of people out there that are never gonna get there, or at least feel like they're never gonna get there, but they like doing other things. So I built a system whereby you get awards for doing random stuff. So you've got you get awards for first activations. You get awards for how many CW contacts have you got, how many SSB contacts have you got, how many bands have you worked on, how many bands have you worked on a single activation. It gives you a bunch of there's a bunch of ranking stuff in there. There's stuff in there for activating different kinds of peaks, or activating the same peak lots of different times, or even just getting your first CW contact. There's awards for that, or awards for doing VHF contacts, UHF contacts, number of associations you've worked, number of regions you've worked. There's tons of stuff in there. And yeah, that's basically, a number of QSOs you get as well, which is a really interesting one, because I know quite a few people that are in their 60s and 70s and 80s, and they're out there and they're sitting on little 1 point peaks, having an awesome time. And the fun for them is, how many contacts can I make? Mm-hmm. It's like, can I do 20? Can I do 30? Can I do 40? That's kind of their drive. They find that really fun, and they don't get so rewarded for that. So
right. Well, and there's for example, me. I already have my mountain goat. So after you get the 1,000 points in the mountain goat, I mean, you could go for the next one and the next one, but there are other things. Like right now, I'm working on trying to get unique activations. I want to get. Right now, I'm close to getting 200 unique activations. I want to actually get 250. That's my goal. And that's something that I've been focusing on. And there's not. I mean, I guess there is kind of an award for SOTA for that, but this little website allows me to track that a little bit, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just trying to make things more accessible and more. Yeah, just I don't know. I when I started SOTA, I was like, points. Let's go. Let's do. Because I had a little bit more free time. And SOTA, and getting points at summits on the air is just about free time. Like, the person that has the most free time is going to get the most points, right? If you just want to quit your job and do full-time SOTA, you'll get a ton of points really quickly. So, that's really cool, and I think it's a great goal for some people. But yeah, the less time you have, I think the more, you just kind of change. Yeah, your perspective changes a little bit. So yeah, man, it was just a thing to make it more inclusive. Like, people like different things, and so this awards you for being totally random. You know, like I've got this. If you want to go and work contacts on 160, you'll get an award. Ta-da! You know what I mean? It's just fun. It's fun. It's totally non-official. You don't get to print off your own award. It doesn't cost you money. Yeah, it just sits there and it tracks you. It goes and reprocesses the data once a day. And yeah, I mean, there's just tons of stuff in there.
That's
I
fun.
haven't worked on it in a few months, but yeah, this tries to bring more people on board and kind of keep them engaged for a little bit longer, because some people, they operate once or twice and they're sort of it gamifies someone's on the air a little bit.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The different things like the Diddy award in there. There isn't one for how many times does Dan fall down on a mountain though. I could lead that pretty easily.
We couldn't. You got to keep it fair, mate. If you don't have access to a Dan, there's no easy Dan access. Then how am I going to get that?
That's right.
But there's a lot of cool things on here to work towards and stuff. So everybody should go out and take a look at it and see what they want to hammer out on. So
yeah, the links in the comments below in the show notes. So
it's funny you say unique activate. Oh, maybe I don't get that data. I was just thinking, Charlie, I don't actually think there is an award set for uniques.
Oh, well, I track it on the regular SOTA website, but still.
Yeah, gotcha. Because it'd be good to have that. But again, I'm just sort of limited to, in some ways, limited to what the data I can get from the system.
Right.
So the reason I built this to start with was I wanted to know how many first activations people had, because that's like it's kind of like this hush hush thing. They don't want to tell you. So I was like, oh, I'll build that. And then I was like, wait, let's do a whole thing. But it's just a bit of fun.
So you do anything else interesting that you've worked on with not necessarily radio related, but with your job? Is there anything that you found like fascinating or interesting that you've done?
We do a really wide variety of things. So a lot of our work is for really big tourism companies, because we're in New Zealand, and New Zealand's a big tourism location, which is, to be honest, not being ideal, because apparently we're an island and we exist on our own now. We're totally closed off and no one can come. Thank you very much.
Right.
We're basically the moon.
No mail, right? You can't get anything mailed to you from here, from the States.
Oh,
no bill.
Oh, it's so bad. Oh no, the bills always come, my man. That's that's entropy and bills. Those are the two things you cannot fight. But so that sucked. But we just do a lot of stuff. I mean, we do. Not too long ago, we were building some software to scrape data from. Before I say this, I should say I'm not against solar power, but a company, what do they do? They paid us to scrape power data from French and German nuclear reactor sites, and to see what the total output of the countries were in terms of nuclear, and then plot those again, do a bunch of data analysis on that versus the data coming into, I think it was Scotland, because there was some big thing about how Scotland was going to go completely green and they weren't going to pull in any nuclear energy from anywhere. That was the party line, and that was in the newspapers. And so I didn't know there was a thing about how Scotland was going to be all green. Pretty sure it was Scotland. And so we did all this work, and because the data was really hard to get access to. We had to go and like do all this horrible scraping. It wasn't like they made it easy to see what was going on with the numbers there. And so we scraped all this data, and it was fine with the job. Didn't think too much of it. It was quite interesting. But we gave them the data, and they sat there and processed for a couple of years. And then someone sent me a newspaper article about like, oh no, it's all a scam. The data's like, they were pulling in tons of nuclear power from France, but they said it wasn't happening. And I was sitting there thinking, oh no, have I just single-handedly destroyed? Has my team just destroyed?
All your fault, Chris.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like we didn't know
That's brainy stuff, though, man.
It's just like, what? Oh god, am I?
Screen scraping is one of the most difficult parts in programming. That's for sure.
It's horrible going and trying using. It was that bit was hard. It sucked to do. But yeah, it was just weird. So we do that, and we do like big e-commerce stuff. We make people lots of money. But yeah, man, like I said, I do heaps of stuff. That's just my day job, my silly day job that pays for everything in my life.
Yeah. As he sips on a cup of herbal tea.
Yeah, it's peppermint tea.
There you go. Still the peppermint.
Yeah, but like I probably my two biggest things are radio. Well, actually, I shouldn't say biggest because I got so many freaking hobbies. But I also spent heaps and heaps of time doing martial arts, which I've done
Oh,
since
yeah.
I was a little kid.
Which system?
So I do. I run a karate club. We
Yeah.
do like old school.
Like Kempo or
It's karate from Okinawa, so it's like
so
one
it's
of it's
before.
called yeah, it's called Judo Karate, which is one of the biggest styles in the world, and it's very like it's not very flashy. It's a lot of suffering. It's kind of it kind of suits me down to the ground really. There's a lot of hard work and there's a lot of suffering and there's no medals and no medals of consequence. And there's
Yeah.
just lots of like smashing your forearms against someone else's forearms, and kicking people's shins repeatedly for fun, supposedly.
Is there grappling in there or like jiu-jitsu and stuff mixed in?
They talk about I think all styles talk about the things that they don't have, and as if I don't know that people say that in karate is like there's a lot of grappling in karate. I've never seen it. I've been training for 25 years. I've never really seen it, but
Yeah.
I also do Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
That's
and I train that
awesome.
5 days a week. I'm doing that. On a good week, I'm doing that five times a week.
See, that's the if I had it to do over again, because I started in Kempo. If I had it to do over again, I would do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think that's one of the most useful martial arts.
It's interesting that you say that, Mr. Charlie, because I think about this every day because I've got little kids and they're girls, and like I think about this all the time. No, this we shouldn't have done this. 6 hours later, I think about this all the time about because I've got experience, and so I do my karate, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I do kobudo, which is like Okinawan weapons training. But it's Ninja Turtle stuff. It's the weapons that the Ninja Turtles use, except for katana. So I do those three things, and so I think to myself, if I had a little kid, which turns out I do, I've got two, and I wanted them to be strong, robust individuals that are a net positive impact on society, which I do. And they wanted to do a martial art, which I hope they do, but if they don't, that's totally fine. What would you want little kids to do? And I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is kind of like it's the poster child right now, right? In the 70s and 80s, karate. It was like the Karate Kid movies were massive, and in the 70s and 80s, karate was the thing. Everyone was into it. It was like woo karate, that's the thing. And now it's not that. It's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's the poster child. Everyone's into it. Yay, fantastic. I really, really enjoy it, but I don't think that I have a couple of problems with it. And these are not, I haven't finalized these thoughts. Everything's in a state of flux in my primitive monkey brain. I have very few firmly held conclusions about anything, but I don't, if you want to, I think wrestling's a little bit different. I think wrestling is probably better, but Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you're taught basically to sit on your butt and lie down and have one person try and grapple you. And I have a problem with that from like a self-defense type perspective, whereby
you don't want to be on the floor, right?
Yeah, and like especially if you're like 120-pound lady, right, and your idea of self-defense is to sit down and try and grapple on the ground, because a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, they work from the knees or the bottom. They're sitting. There is standing involved, but a lot of times a lot of people just get good at Jiu-Jitsu sitting. Like they play that guard position, which is cool, but if there's a 300-pound gorilla that's kind of angry and they want to mess you up and you sit, I don't think sitting in the middle of a pub is a great self-defense move. You know what I'm saying? What if there are two gorillas? So I really like the idea of staying on your feet and being able to run and punch and scream and kick and being mobile, sort of like the Muay Thai or the karate or something like that for
It's
kids.
good. It's good that you're doing both then, Chris. So you have a good mix.
Yeah, I mean, I did too much stuff, but yeah, that's like how often are you going to have to use Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or kobudo or karate to defend yourself in the real world? Probably never. Hopefully never. But just because I don't use the skills doesn't mean I don't use the skills. It's like the conversation with granddad, right? With grandpa. It just gives you this backstop thing where you're like, I'm a reasonably competent human being. So this lady was really rude to me at the supermarket. Am I going to go off the handle and explode? No, I'm not, because I was just wrestling with Charlie and Charlie whooped my butt and it was terrible. I did nothing. You know what I mean? This is nothing compared to having Charlie like on my back trying to pop my head off like a Lego man. This is nothing. It's just a lady that was angry, you know? And if you don't have that kind of counterbalance when the person gets angry at you, or, you know, you're like, oh, damn it, Dan fell down the mountain again. Now I got to go rescue him. It's less, you just don't get so angry. So you use the skills all the time.
A lot of that, I think the biggest skill people derive from it is discipline, right? And being able to control yourself. I think that's the biggest thing, it seems to me, is what people get out of it.
Yeah, I think so too. But I'm also very aware that it doesn't have to be like I could teach. It's not about me. But you could teach a kid discipline in anything, man. I played a lot of violin as a kid. I played the violin for a long time, and I learned a lot about discipline from a tiny string instrument called the violin. I learned that I had to be up at 6 a.m. every morning to practice. I had to practice for an hour. I had to practice when it sucked. I had to practice when I didn't want to practice. I had to get better. I had to keep going to my lessons. Like it's like it doesn't matter what kind of car you jump into, you can still arrive at the destination of discipline, you know. And so I think martial arts they get a lot of praise for that, but honestly, I think you can learn a lot of discipline from football, you know, or from running, or from anything. I don't think it has to be that, but I think we get a lot of credit. Maybe it's deserved, maybe it's not. It's interesting
So
topic.
I'm going to bring this back around, and believe me, believe it or not. And this has been a good discussion, though, because it's kind of leading into another thing I wanted to talk about, and that is, so how long have you known or been working with CW, Morse code, Chris? A couple of years now?
Yeah, it must be 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. Okay. So this is a perfect point we just made about learning CW, right? It's the same thing. You have to have discipline, and you have to, and it's another one of those things, whether you learn it or not, you should at least be exposed to it, like we talked about before, because you don't know if you're going to like it or not until you're exposed to it. So it's a good point. So how's your Morse code coming along? Have you had an opportunity to advance much, or is it just kind of where you have? Okay, cool. Tell us about it.
Oh man, CW is such a funny thing. It's like it's like, why would you? It's just honestly, no offense to anybody, and I love Morse code, but what, like, from an outsider's perspective, CW just seems so dumb, doesn't it? Like, what do you do? Like, did you go to the supermarket in like a steam engine? Like, how did you get to the shops today? Is that how you did it? Like, did you rock your penny farthing? Is that what you're into? That's kind of weird, but that's fine. Whatever, you do you. You know, like, it's just from the outside, it seems like such a dumb thing. And then I guess if you're weird enough, you try it, and there's some impetus for trying it, some reason, right? You try it, and then you realize this dumb thing is amazing. This thing kicks butt. It's so cool. It's probably the best thing about ham radio for me.
Yeah.
I've tried heaps of stuff in ham radio. I've tried heaps of stuff. This little goofy da thing is just so cool. It's so useful. It's really gratifying. It's a hard skill. It's something that you can feel a little proud in being able to do. It's just such a beautiful thing, and it makes no sense. At least to me, I'm thinking, what is it like? What is it that's so appealing about it? And it's kind of this ethereal thing. But so I learned my CW for SOTA, which is really cool. The problems that I have with it now is that, well, not really problems, but the challenges, let's say, are that in SOTA you probably operate, I don't know how fast you operate, Charlie. It sounds like you're about 20 words a minute.
25.
You're at 25. Classic Charlie, 25. I operate at 20, and a lot of other operators, the normal, the mortal operators, operate at about 18 to 20 words per minute. At least where I'm at is kind of the standard. And so that's cool, but I've been playing around with the idea of, because I just like trying new things, of doing some contests. And so I did my first contest last year, and my 20 words per minute, it was a little bit slow. It was a little bit for contesting, a little bit slow. And so, it's just been going for me, going from 20 to even like 24, 25, I've been struggling with that. I find that quite hard. I got to I got to like 15, 18, like surprisingly quickly, and it was all good, and I've been operating around that speed, and it's just I don't get, because of where I am, and I'm QRP as well, I don't get a whole lot. In fact, I've never worked a European station. So you think about the call signs of Europeans, they're quite varied. Whereas I generally just work in stations, K stations, ZL stations, VK stations, and Japanese stations. And that's about it. So especially at pace, I'm not used to copying European stations. I'm not used to copying, I'm not used to copying even Canadian calls. So, but when you're at home operating a little bit faster with a bit more power, and you've got more acts, like you can use the radio if you're at home when the conditions are good. So you jump on and there'll be Europeans there. Whereas in SOTA, you're just like, man, the bed's been made. You got to sleep in it. You've got your window. Like you can't like just jump into the McDonald's next door and be like, bro, it's not so good right now. I'm gonna go have a Big Mac, come back in a couple of hours and the propagation cleans up. You just eat it. You just deal with whatever the problem is. You just, so that's been quite a challenge for me, is to work a little bit faster and get competent at copying calls that I don't recognize, which I can totally do, but it's a little jarring. When like on the top of you're working SOTA and you're like, cool, I know who it's going to be. I know who you guys work all the time just because of the videos, right? Like that WOMNA, WOMA or something.
Yes.
There's and Charlie's call. There are calls that you see all the time, right? And you know how easy it is. You're not even thinking. It's total autopilot mode. You're like, oh yeah, that's Gary, that's Jeff, that's Sally. It's just so easy. I get into that a lot with my CW because I know 90% of the sessions that are going to come back, and so I feel like I'm not really practicing my CW. I'm just practicing my memory. It's just not the same.
It is.
Whereas around 100 watts, it's not the same. It's harder.
Right. Brian is probably amongst the three of us anyway, is probably the most into contesting and trying to become more proficient in that, right, Brian?
Yeah, I tell everybody if I can go no problem, probably 30 words a minute in a contest or faster. Because it's fairly predictable. It's numbers. It's easy to pick out in your head. My bad CW is, perfectly acceptable up at that level. But if we're going to start having a conversation, it's going to have to slow down a little bit. Once it goes past the normal, my radio is this, the weather's that, my name is this, the stuff that you can kind of fill in the blanks on and don't have to listen to intently, it's good to go. But if you start telling me about your hat and the karate you're teaching your kids, and that they're more interested in the phone, I'm like, yeah, we're hosed at that point. It starts to rapidly become noise until we slow down.
Yeah.
But I'm actively working on trying to get past that level. But I know, honestly, at the contesting level, I never thought 30 plus words a minute would be possible for me. That just seemed like absolutely impossible. And now it's like, oh, that was just 9872, and his name is Jim. Boom, and it's in the log, and we're moving on.
Yeah, nice.
Cool. All right. Well, so we have a little over. We got 6 minutes left. So, is there anything else, Chris, that you want to talk about, maybe, or that we haven't asked that you think is important, or at least that you might be interesting to people?
I'm just really excited about getting people to do this weird hobby, that everyone says is dying, but it's clearly not dying. Right. It's just I don't know, it might be slightly. I mean, the US is the mecca of ham, right? There are still plenty of operators. I mean, it might not feel like it to you, but from my perspective looking in, there are a lot of American operators. But where I live in VK, there just aren't that many. And it's this hobby that's dominated by, I shouldn't say dominated, that implies like it's on purpose and there's some like nefarious thing, but there's just a lot of people that are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s that do it. They're the core of it. And, thank goodness for them, because without them, there would be absolutely nothing. It's just, so like making the YouTube videos, doing the radio runner stuff, and just talking to people about ham radio. I'm just like, the important thing for me is just that it's just such a, I find it, I think it's really exciting. I think it's such a cool hobby. I'm super interested in getting more people to do it, and just trying to find some sort of time, stuff that they already do. So maybe it's hiking or running or whatever it is. But no, I just really want to get more people to talk to. And it's just, there's so many positive things about ham radio that I just think it's great. I think it's so freaking cool. I love it. The people are awesome. It's such a great community. They're a grumpy old men, but they're a grumpy old men and everything.
Yeah,
Like, it's just part of human nature. So it's not awesome all the time. There are heaps of people argue about stuff. You know, people start throwing F-bombs about how much they hate like DMR or what. Like, it's humans like doing stuff. It's not all perfect, but it's such a great hobby. I'm super into it, and I'm just really excited that YouTube gives us this platform to show people just the variety of stuff that we can do, you know, and how interesting it is and how inclusive it is. And it's just, man, I think it's awesome.
Yeah. So you guys watching, go ahead and check out his YouTube channel. It's Radio Runner, and it's awesome. It's really good. He does a lot of really cool portable radio, summits on the air stuff. And so let me recognize our Reza in the room too. She has a great channel as well, and hers is she does some portable stuff, but does other stuff as well. And it's the same thing, Chris, is what you're talking about. She really promotes the hobby as well. And all the YouTubers out there, I really appreciate all of them, because we all have this little niche and this thing that we enjoy doing, and when we share it with others, it really helps out the community, I think. So good for you, Chris. I appreciate you doing that. Let's go ahead and wrap up then. And before we do, I just wanted to mention one other thing. Some of you may know Ham Radio Live, the YouTube channel called Ham Radio Live. My friend Larry does that show. His call sign is K7HN. And I am going to be on his show in about 30 minutes or so. So if you're interested, go ahead and hop over there in about 30 minutes to Ham Radio Live, and he'll be interviewing me. It's a great guy, and his channel it's one of my favorites, so it's good. So I just want to make sure you guys know about that. And so let's go ahead and wrap it up then. I'll say my goodbyes first, and then we'll end with you, Chris. But again, thank you so much for being on. It seems like we just hit the tip of the iceberg here with learning more about you. And you're a very interesting person with a lot of different hobbies. So good luck to you with your job, and also with your little family. And I hope that your girls grow up to be just as cool as you are. And I'll say 73 to you, and let Brian and Dan finish it out.
Yeah, Chris, thanks for being on the show. It's great to finally meet you. So I've watched most of your videos, and they're truly very enjoyable. So I'm looking forward to someday getting down to that neck of the woods and seeing some of the beauty of New Zealand. So hats off to you. Keep making the videos, that's for sure.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, and Brian just dropped off, so I'm not quite sure what happened with him, but with that, I guess I'll just say 73. Any last words then, Chris? You already did some, but
yeah, man, just there's so many people making awesome content. You can find someone that you resonate with. It's such a good time. It's such a good time. Like I said, man, just if you're curious about trying CW, please do. I know it seems super goofy from the outside, but once you get into it, it's really cool. It's really hard. It's a struggle, but it's such a great mode. It is the best mode. Unquestionably the best mode. Ham radio is cool. Don't let anybody tell you different.
Cool.
Looks like I'm having some connectivity issues with my camera all of a sudden. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not.
We can hear you.
We hear you.
Okay, yeah, camera's offline at the moment. So, Chris, it's great meeting you, and thankfully you don't have to actually see my face. So at this point, so you're actually in a much better place right now.
That's fine, man. You look great. Don't worry about it.
So we've all kind of said goodbye. So it's up to you to finish it out, Brian, and close us out.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us here. Again, we just improved the show by 200% by having my camera decide to go offline. So thank you all for joining us, and we'll catch you next time. W7JET here with NJ7V, Dan, and Chris.
See y'all later.
Adios.
Bye.